to.
Hello, my name's Jim Greamy. This is Brian Fisher, and we're here with Logos and Culture. And today, we don't have to worry about finding subjects to talk about today. We're going to try to discuss the slap heard around the world, and or seen around the world, since because of the preponderance of it everywhere. The things that are happening with Disney right now, and their moral agenda, for lack of a better term. And of course, in that, we have to deal with the LGBTQIA plus situation as well. So that's what we're going to talk about. So let's see how this worked. The slap scene around the world.
Did you watch it? Did you...
I watched I watched the video. I didn't see it. I didn't see it live. I don't watch the Oscars. I haven't watched the Oscars in years, and obviously by their ratings, nobody's watching the Oscars right now.
Interesting. This was the first year in a long time that my wife and I watched it live. It was just starting. We were on the couch, and I was like to her, so let's just watch the red carpet stuff, so we can like make fun of everyone's dresses and attire and like the way they show up to this.
You're easily amused. Yeah.
It's a fun little judgment game that it is what it is. And then we just kind of continue watching. So I get to watch a lot, but yeah. So yeah.
So how did
Live was a little different because I don't know if this was a Hulu thing, because there might have been a tape delay on just Hulu versus if you're doing over the air. But with Hulu, the moment he walked up on stage and slapped him, from then it was muted. There was no audio at all. So they like the censors came in and muted the whole thing. So I didn't hear what Chris Rock said. I didn't hear what Will Smith said.
Well, yeah, it's not repeatable
Yeah,
for
of course.
us here.
And then went on Twitter immediately afterwards because we're like, what's going on? We found the uncensored version.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Which was pretty entertaining to watch for certain. But I thought at first, because when I was watching it live and you see the slap, it kind of looks like one of these slaps you get taught as an actor to fake, or fake punch, right?
Yeah.
Where you make it's a very dramatic hand movement and an arm movement and hip movement because you're trying to sell to the camera something that you're not going to actually do, right? And even Chris Rock's reaction to it, at least granted didn't have the audio after the slap, it seemed like it could have been staged. And I thought maybe this was just like something they agreed to previously. But then when it's silent, like you knew something else was up, right?
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, it was all off a joke about Jada Pinkett Smith, Will Smith's longtime wife.
That they're in an open relationship.
He didn't make a joke about that.
No. That's
the interesting thing. The three female co-hosts. I don't know why they did three females. It's kind of weird, but they made a joke about the open relationship with Jada, and that went out on no worries. Apparently, they were okay to make fun of it. But Chris Rock just simply made a joke about her hairstyle, that she had a shaved head, and so like that G.I. Jane joke, like the movie G.I. Jane, she shaves her hair in the movie.
Right,
lead actress, and it's like G.I. Jane 2. I'm waiting for it to come out because making fun of it. And apparently, he didn't know this. At least he claims. Chris Rock claims he doesn't know this, that she has alopecia. They try to make it in the media to support Will. They try to make it sound like it's a worse situation by saying it's they try to say it's an autoimmune disease,
right,
disorder, whatever, which it is. I mean, that's what alopecia is. But alopecia is literally what like the majority of men go through at a certain age. It doesn't happen to women as often, clearly, but it's not this like you have cancer kind of a deal. Now, if that was the situation, it'd be a little bit of a different scenario for someone to make fun of you if you had a real problem.
Oh, sure.
A medical issue. She's one of the few women who ends up losing her hair, so she decides to shave it off. Supposedly, Chris Rock didn't know that, made fun of it. She Will Smith initially laughs, as you can see on the video. He like, fake laugh. You can
Yeah, it's
tell
all
he
fake,
doesn't-
right? Yeah.
it's all fake. And then you see Jada Pinkett's eye roll, it's like, and I don't know. Will was still laughing. I think she turns to him, and the camera pans back to Chris Rock.
Chris Rock.
I have no idea what happened for the first those seconds. But apparently something between those seconds snapped, and Will decided he's going to walk up on stage, which is only a few feet because he's in the front row.
Sure.
Being nominated for Best Actor, they put the best people up front for those awards. So he just walks up on stage and does this very dramatic slap. And Chris Rock's like, Will Smith just smacked me right upside my head,
Took one from Muhammad Ali.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't understand. I don't understand what was going on in Will's mind, but in the apology, he brought up God several times. He brought up some sort of religious aspect to faith, and he brought up this one phrase that Denzel told him during the break after that happened. Because Denzel's one of the few openly Christian actors who's still quite famous.
Right.
And said at your highest point, that's when the devil's going to come after you, right? That paraphrase. And that's what Will said in his, acceptance speech, which was a pseudo apology speech at the same time. So I know historically, because I'm a big Will Smith fan, have been for.
Yeah, I've always liked him. I mean, he's obviously doesn't hold to a Judeo-Christian or even a Christian.
He was raised by his grandmother as Christian in a Christian household.
Mm-hmm.
Earlier in his career, he would completely claim he was a Christian Protestant, believed in Jesus.
Sure. Yeah.
Middle of his career, he kind of hinted he was moving away from that, but still somewhat claiming it. Obviously, in the latter part, where it's not popular to be a Christian these days,
right?
It's more spiritual. It's more God. It's more I have a calling, like he used, and he's kind of moved away from it. And so maybe this is one of these moments that is teachable in his life and might correct an error in his path to realize what he has is of no substance, because there's no rooted in anything foundational. So.
Well, and there's a lot. I mean, we are far past even. We're running to the very ragged edges of the end of what is philosophers refer to as postmodernism. You've basically got three major time periods in human history. You've got pre-modern, then you have modern, then you've got postmodern, and now we're really into what some people refer to as post-truth. And I don't remember where I heard this, read it, whatever, but in pre-modern times, the umpire would say there are balls and there are strikes, and I call them as they are. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that means things have objective reality. In modern times, this is the advent of the Renaissance, of scientific theory starting to kick in. And so then you have the umpire would say there are balls and there are strikes, and I call them as I see them. So they're still there. But it's perception where the human determines what is real or not real. Then in postmodernism, the umpire is essentially saying there isn't anything unless I say there is.
It's
so now,
a ball and a strike when I say it.
Yeah, when I say it. So in other words, meaning doesn't happen until I give it meaning. Now, sometimes you say until I enunciate the words, then what I enunciate, that's when something becomes real or not real. And then in post-truth, it really just goes all to pieces. There is no ball, there is no bat. It's just like, so how do you feel about that? I mean, that's pretty much all it is, and it's based on emotion. We see this especially politically, and especially between the two parties, and nationally we see this all the time. We're seeing this shoved down our throats sideways with all the television shows and everything. We see all media is basically they're reacting to our emotionalism. People don't want to know what did you see or what do you think. They want to know, well, how does that make you feel, or what do you feel about this? What you feel about it is irrelevant if you're not lining up with the facts of reality. And the bottom line is I heard a speaker say one time, and he was from India. He says even in India, which is a very pluralistic, and it, especially like in Hinduist society, you don't really have an either or. It's more both and type of thing. But even we do when we cross the roads in India, we know it's either us or the bus, not both. And so I think we're looking at how all of this goes together. And when you're starting to enunciate Christianity, I know there's a lot of guys on YouTube, especially, that they're putting, now a lot of it's clickbait. Their YouTube titles are just clickbait. I'm sorry, very few people actually put what's actually in the video. They try to say something, really controversial. Oh, well, what are they doing? And then you go there, it's not saying that at all, And at YouTube, I will say they have hammered some people for doing that. But there's people out there that want to say, well, these people just simply are not believers. We can say there's a real high likelihood that you are not a believer, based on how you live your life. Or somebody can come right out and say, I don't believe in God. Okay, we need to take them at their word. That's just what they say. But we are not given the tools as believers to know beyond a shadow of a doubt and know into eternity whether somebody is or is not a true believer. Especially someone, we have hope that someone like Will Smith, especially now that their lives do not comport with biblical Christianity, we can hope that they are a believer, but they are far away from fellowship with God. Now, Denzel Washington, he is very vocal about his faith. And it appears that his life, you see a progression, even in his movies, his life is becoming more and more attuned to what Jesus Christ desires for every believer. But yet, he's still in a very difficult environment. That's, if you're a believer and you're in Hollywood, there's only two ways you can look at that. Either A, that really is your calling, or it's just something else.
Yeah, I mean, the effort that Hollywood goes to in order to normalize certain things like LGBTQIA plus agenda in the face of
Open it. I need to text my wife, sorry.
Oh, no worries. Go for it.
But continue to talk. I don't have to talk all the time.
Okay. I just noticed that they purposely try to pick people who they know are believers, like Denzel, and highlight the fact that they think it's absolutely normal to have to be part of the gay agenda. And so even at the opening of the Oscars, where you had the 3 women co-hosts, and then they referenced the Florida parental rights bill, the quote-unquote "don't say gay" bill, and they said, I think something to the effect of, we're going to have a good time tonight, and for those of you in Florida, we're going to have a gay time tonight. And they all just repeated the word gay, gay, gay 100 times. And immediately the first person, the audience laughs and claps and whatever, and the first person that the camera pans to in the audience is Denzel. The first person. Now you can say, well, it's just because he's a big movie star, right?
Oh, sure, yeah.
But I think it's clearly because he's a big movie star that represents a certain faith, a certain belief that is publicly known. And so if he's laughing about it, he's clapping along with it, then that means, it must be okay, right? It must not be as bad of a thing as we initially thought. So I think partly it's like, even Denzel's like, you can't live in the dark places and not be affected by the darkness, right? So I feel for Denzel. I do believe he's a genuine believer in Jesus, I think he has a very difficult time trying to live out that faith.
But I think even in that, don't you find that's even telling that they would even go to him? Like they're wanting to see. I mean, is it?
I want to see what he thinks.
Yeah. Is it the fact that they're, is this going to be okay? And do we want to do that? I'm working on the Lord fully changing all my cynicism. But I would think that they're wanting to see what Denzel says, and Denzel reacts in order to be critical, not necessarily to find affirmation.
I think they'll be fine with either. They
Oh,
just want
yeah.
a response.
Yeah, well, that could be too. Yeah, I would.
On the camera, right? It doesn't. They're gonna win either way because they'll spin it however they need to spin it. Right?
Oh yeah.
But yeah, he was clapping and smiling and laughing along with the joke, and it might have been
That's part I didn't.
It could be incredulous. But
Yeah, I couldn't. That's part I didn't see that part because I get there again. I watched the highlights. But my curiosity was, did they pan to him after the slap or did they pan to him after the joke?
Well, this was the open. This was before that even took place. This was the opening monologue at the very end of it.
Oh, I see.
They first panned to him, and then they panned to some other, famous audience members that were clapping and laughing along. But interesting that they did pan to Denzel. While Chris Rock was up there doing his thing before the slap, and then after the slap, I think it was just on Will and Chris Rock, the camera. But clearly, there's other footage of this. So during the break, during the commercial break, there are other people taking their cameras out because they knew something was up at that moment and started recording themselves. And you can see, because it's from the rafters, so you don't know who the person is, but you know the seating position, the seating chart based upon they're in the front row. It's Denzel coming over to Will's table to talk to him. Right after that went to commercial break, that the slap happened. And that's when probably when Denzel told him this phrase, when you're at your highest high, that's when the devil's coming after you to tempt you. And then they, when Will references that, they pan to Denzel. He's looking very somber. He's looking very serious. And, this is a moment of crisis for his friend, which it is.
It is.
Crying up on stage, so.
Yeah, he's crying. Chris Rock wasn't crying, but he was crying. Yeah. And I understand that. I think we are getting to the point where it could just be me, and this is purely a single observer status type of thing. But I'm seeing a lot more of your true comedians that are actually truly funny, not the ones that are just shock and just trying to see how many swear words they can shove into 60 seconds. But some of the guys that are actually truly funny in our culture, they're moving away from this far left woke, and they're starting to move more toward minimally libertarian. Perhaps they're sounding more conservative, not necessarily because they've changed, but because culture has swept by them so fast. We're in a place now where nothing can be funny.
No, of course.
Nothing can be funny.
Feelings trump.
Yeah, feelings trump everything. And how dare you, and I don't care whether you refer to it as the snowflakes, the snowflake phenomena or whatever you want to call it. We don't even hear that anymore. But it's just the fact that everybody is so hypersensitive that nothing can be. Don't confuse funny and amusing, but nothing can be made fun of. Nothing can be poked at it. Everybody is super serious. You can't touch me, and there again, it goes back to believers. We know that God, Yahweh God, the God of the Bible, is holy. He says, "Be holy as I am holy." We know that He is love. We see who God is in the person of Jesus Christ when he comes. And we know that Christ as human, the man laughed and he smiled. And some of the things that he said, if you remove this hyper forced, oh, we don't dare smile at anything Jesus says, and we get rid of all that and we try to look at the context and what he was, some of the things that Jesus said were ironically beyond funny. And they were, it's like you had to laugh at the way he presented some things. And the Bible doesn't really go out of the way. G.K. Chesterton, there again, not a paragon of morality in and of himself, but he was a phenomenal thinker, and I sincerely believe that he knew Christ. Chesterton said that one of the things that is hidden from us is the mirth of Jesus. Because could we be able to handle, Christ, smiling and laughing?
I mean, we can barely handle the image of him, forcing out the money changers at the temple.
Oh no, people lose their mind over that.
Barely handle.
But I mean, and so that's one end of the spectrum. And if we
so go to the other end, which is laughter, right? Is like,
oh yeah,
you can't make fun of people.
And so
you can't make fun of people.
Right, and so you can't. And so there again, I think we're past that. And I think what that does.
He makes fun of Jewish law all the time. I mean, he literally
yes.
makes fun. Like, you guys do this, but you guys pretend it. It's like you can see the changing of the weather, and you can based on the clouds, but you don't know the season that's right.
That's exactly right.
You're an idiot. He literally is calling them an idiot with a humoristic dialect, if you will.
And so what we're seeing is this in our culture. We're seeing this complete redefinition of everything. And one of the things that we're seeing a redefinition of is, number one, what and who is God? Because now that everybody can say anything, and that's just the way it is. Well, essentially, you're attributing
it's a multiplicity of gods.
Everybody's their own God, because this is my definition of reality, and forget about anything else. And I'm thankful that engineers don't feel this way, airplane pilots don't feel this way, and science, hard science, cannot feel this way either. But still, it's that this is what that there's that. But also then you've got a complete redefinition of what is love. You've lost the ability to understand what true love is, and love, accepts. If you really understand 1 Corinthians 13, love doesn't take offense at everything. Mm-hmm. I mean, you have to know if somebody is making fun of you. A lot of people even understand that. Well, they're making fun of you because they actually like you or they love you, because they feel comfortable doing that. We no longer give people that grace. And of course, the grace is gone in our culture. There is no grace anymore. And so I think this has just been, is there an answer to the slap seen around the world? Not one that wouldn't just be simplistic. I don't believe so. I think what we're seeing is a further degradation of our culture. Humor is probably the first to go. Now, humor has been used by the far left for years to make fun of biblical Christianity, because that's the pathway in order to get acceptance. Once you start laughing about something, then you find it easier to accept it. And in fact, that's segue right in to Disney here. That's really a lot of the ways that that's a path. If you go all the way back to the 70s, that's the path that the what is now labeled as an LGBTQIA plus agenda has taken. They get it. They try to make it very disarming, and that now it's become very militant.
Will and Gregson, we laughed all over it.
Well, it started the first time I ever heard the word gay. I was, early 70s. There was what was the name of that comedy? It had who's the guy that was in Sleepless in Seattle? No, that wrong one then. I can't. What About Bob? Who was the psychologist in What About Bob? Billy Crystal. Okay, Billy Crystal. He played a gay comic on this show, and he comes to the door, and he is coming down to visit somebody because somebody's family member died that he knew. And they say, well, do you have a girlfriend or anything? And he goes, no, I'm gay. And the guy that answered the door says, oh, I love happy people. And I'm like, I didn't get it. I never heard the term before. I never heard the term at all. And I had to ask, what is gay? And then when I was told what gay was, I couldn't even comprehend that, not at, 10 years old or however old I was at the time. And so, but that's when it first started. And then, like you say, by the time you got, Will and Grace was what, late 80s, early 90s? And so by the time you get to that, it's just it's like, oh, this is just funny. There again, because it was very disarming, well, then it became much more militant. And then, by the time we get to the Bergefell decision, it's been taken out of anybody's hands to make a choice. It's just the Supreme Court just legislated that, they redefined what the institution of marriage was, And by the way, marriage, I was listening to Moeller's broadcast this morning on the briefing, he mentioned this again. It's not new knowledge, but he mentioned it's like, marriage pre-existed the United States. It pre-existed any government, for that matter, but yet they've taken it upon themselves to redefine what that institution is, and it goes against all biblical definition, all biblical presentation and demonstration of it. And by doing so, they're undermining and they're redefining and basically gutting family, which brings us to Disney.
Yeah, two things. One is, except for the extreme true believers in this ideology, I don't think there's not really hypersensitivity. It's fake hypersensitivity. It's performative. And the reason I believe that's because it's based off of the playing the victim and gaining, your woke brownie points. You can expend.
It's virtue signaling.
At a later date to say, hey, look, I'm the oppressed. That makes you the oppressor. So now I have power over you because that's the dynamics in today's culture. So I will pretend to be hypersensitive and offended extremely so that I can have this capital to expend later or maybe right in that moment if I so choose. But they don't really care that you made a joke about their hair because they know it's just a joke about your hair. But hey, if I can get one up over you, why not?
Well, and I think too, that's just now, the bottom line is I don't know what Will Smith's motives were. There's evidence that would lead us to believe, not substantial, not beyond shadow of a doubt, lead us to believe that what motivated Will Smith to go up there, whether or not it was play laugh whenever Chris Rock told the joke or that, but we know that it was after there was a conversation with Jada, and regardless of I can't even say that. Their relationship is, at this point, is beside the point, and how they conduct their relationship.
I mean, she could have just said, "You're gonna let him say that."
Yeah, and that's it. Well, I mean, come on, it's just like that would be like a lot of husbands. It's like, I guess I will not. It's just like, I don't know. I guess I'm not going to. No,
I mean,
or you could have just said, no, man, I wasn't planning on doing that at all.
Time and place is supposed to help.
Yeah, it is.
Decision for you, like, is the joke off color? Yeah, it's a little bit, but I mean, like, can't be that sensitive. But he's up on stage and he's a comedian. He's part of this award broadcast. So is it off? No, it's not off color for the time and place. It's not. So you have to just let that one roll off your back.
Well, and also, he could have honestly, I mean, why would Chris Rock know that she's got alopecia? I mean, I've got a nephew that had that. He still has no hair. And he served in the Marine Corps, and he's in the Illinois State Police Academy right now. So I mean, it's a known disease, but that doesn't mean that Chris Rock actually knew it. I don't know Chris Rock. I don't know anything about Chris Rock. He can be very funny.
Even if he knew,
and very
I put nothing on. Even if he knew.
No, it doesn't matter. But my question would be, if he knew that, would he actually make fun of something that someone had no ability to change?
Past. He's a comedian. That's what he do.
I know it. That's true. But I
He
mean,
made fun of, he makes
makes fun of everybody.
Generalizations about race all the time.
Sure he does.
And he's not like he doesn't know that that's what he's doing.
No. But
That's
I mean,
what comedy is. Something.
but you know, it's there's just certain things. I think we're in a day now that people would not necessarily make fun of somebody with a disease. I don't know if they would go. I don't think that's the
There are
first.
people that still make fun of like handicapped people. Like it's a joke.
Yeah, not
Oh,
many.
sir, you could stand up. Can't you stand up for me, sir?
Yeah.
Those, you know?
Yeah, but I think there again there would be a certain time and place.
Of
you know,
course,
you
that's
know.
what it is. But this is the fine time and place for that.
That's right, because I mean they're paying him
Yeah.
to make people laugh.
Yeah.
However he does it. I mean, and what was it, Ricky Gervais? I don't think he's been back. Yeah, he was the guy's funny. The guy is beyond funny because he goes after. He's not a believer. He is not doesn't pretend to be a believer. But he went right after people. But anyway, but and then so we were heading towards. So let's hit this. We're not going to have time to really go much further than this. But the stuff with Disney and what the media has been calling the "Don't Say Gay" bill. First, if you don't know this, you should. It does not, and nor does it say "Don't say gay." The people that are against it call it that because they realize they can't push their lifestyle or agenda. That's the biggest.
Schools. I mean, it's K through 3.
K through 3. Come on, K through third grade. You're in what? You're. See, I was 9 and 5. See, fifth. You're 7 years old.
Yeah, I mean, and all they're trying to do is say you shouldn't be talking about topics such as gender identity
And
sexual
orientation.
Yeah.
Or even sex, period.
Yeah, in K through 3 class. And I, no one, by the way, this doesn't preclude anyone from saying as a teacher, if they identify as, say some, one of the letters in the alphabet.
Yeah,
right?
okay.
And they want to go by mix instead of miss or mister. This doesn't preclude that. They can still be called mix, right? And they can still say, this is what I prefer. And they can still say, if they want to, I am neither a boy nor a girl, or at least I don't identify one, and this is why I want you to call me mix when they introduce themselves the first week of class or whatever it is. The bill doesn't preclude even that. So it's not like there's any damage or harm being even done to the teachers.
But it's removing the advocation.
The advocation of it. And they're like, do you have questions about it? That's always what they do. Do you have questions about it? And then they start going off on the agenda. Well, no, they can't do that anymore.
They should have never been able to do that because this isn't and really the bill in Florida actually really goes right to the heart of the matter. This is a battle over the rights of parents. That's what this boils down to. That's exactly right. It's why it's called that, the parental rights bill. And this goes after the right of parents. The parents have the authority over their children. The parents have the authority. We already know what the left believes with this, and that's what cost the person that was the serving governor of Virginia his job.
Yeah.
Because he said out loud in public on record.
Why should parents care about what
they don't have anything to do. Yeah, they don't have anything to do with what we teach.
Have a say.
And it's because we are the professionals. This is the attitude of the educators. We're the professionals. We know what's best. We will tell your kids what they need to know, regardless of whether you don't think they need to know it or not. And this is not the first time educators have gone this direction. This goes all the way back to the early 1900s, and John Dewey, who was very, very negative and critical of parents. And this was back then in the early 1900s, there was an anti-Catholic movement that was not prevalent, but there was an anti-Catholic movement in the country, and they were upset about. They didn't want immigrants bringing their children in and being able to influence them religiously against the tenets back then that they thought were, mom apple pie USA type of attitude. And so, this isn't the first time that they've done that, but there again, what we're really seeing is parents are starting to wake up and figure out this is what public school does.
Yeah, they don't teach subjects
anymore. There's no. They'd rather teach philosophies. They'd rather teach mindsets, but they're not teaching, the old reading, writing, and arithmetic.
They want to radicalize your children.
That's
what it's about.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's about, and I think that's what it goes. That's how it's going down, and that's unfortunate. This could radically affect the viability in some areas. Now, not in all, obviously. I tend to be politically a federalist. I think individual states, if an individual state wants to do something, then given the way our country is set up, if they want to vote and they want to pass laws, I think some of the laws that they want to pass are immoral. They're anti-Christian. But if they choose to do it, then God in His wisdom has set up our country this way and allowed it to be this way. They can pass those laws in that state. And of course, the problem is this going to increase more and more polarization where you end up seeing a particular state, well, that's where all the Christians live, or that's where all the conservatives live, or and then you've got states where obviously that's where a majority of the of liberal lives, or yeah. But then you've got, and now we're seeing new things where you've got like the governor of Oregon is calling out the governor of Florida, over we say gay. Well, okay. Well, and of course she's going to say that because she's the only openly gay governor in the country right now. And the Bible hasn't changed, not since it's been written. We didn't update it to meet our political agenda. I mean, it's always said these things, and because it is truth. And that's what we're really finding it. That's why we're in this post-truth world. We're in this anti-truth world. And if you're anti-truth, you're also anti-Christ. Jesus clearly identified himself as the way, the truth, and the life. And so you are anti. Now, does that mean, well, there's a lot of people that are anti-truth movement. They don't agree with the post-truth culture, but they're not necessarily Christians. That's true, but when you're anti-truth, that is what you are anti. That's what you're going against. There's only two. God divided the world, and Scripture is very consistent with it. There's only two groups, and it's not Jew and non-Jew. It is believer and non-believer. You're either in the kingdom of light or you're in the kingdom of darkness. You can't be. You don't get a third choice. Well, I want to be in the kingdom of gray. No, there is no kingdom of gray. You're either in the light or the darkness. That's it. And so that's where everybody's going to go. That's how the world. I've read the end of the book. I know how it's going to end. And so now we've got Disney, and we're going to end this up because we're getting close to the end of our allotment here. I've always, as a pastor, 25 plus years now. It's hard to believe I've been doing it that long. There's a lot of pastors who've been doing it a lot longer than me. But as a pastor, I do not like the concept of me being the morality police in individuals' lives. If I stand up in the pulpit or in any kind of teaching situation, and if I get up and say, look, I don't want anybody that's a member of this church, and I don't think any Christian has any right, any reason, any business doing business with the Walt Disney Corporation, or what is just called Disney Inc. now. You shouldn't be going to Disneyland, you shouldn't be going to their movies. No, because if I say that, I am usurping the position of the Holy Spirit in the individual life. I mean, my job is to teach people the Bible, to allow them to understand what God wants, and then that way they can be sensitive to the Holy Spirit in their lives, which then will guide their actions, because I'm not going to be around them all the time. Now, if they ask me a straight out question, do you think I should be going to Disney? And I'm just going to say, well, I think you really need to seriously consider this. Before you go, if you have children, You need to tell your kids, okay, we're going to go there, we're going to have a great time, there's going to be a great rides, but there's going to be some stuff there you're going to have questions about. And so when you have questions about something, and maybe we'll see things that we know that do not go along with what the Bible teaches, we're going to discuss it as a family. And some of you parents are thinking, dude, I don't keep up with this stuff. I don't keep. Well, there again, that's what the fellowship of the saints, and we call it church, that's what their purpose is, because there are people that keep up with these things. But the bottom line is as a parent, you know that a man's a man and a woman's a woman. Marriage is a man and a woman only, nothing else but that. And the world can redefine it and call it whatever they want, but it doesn't change the institution of marriage as God designed and created it. But as a pastor, I am not going to demand that people do not go to Disney. I don't think boycotts are effective. You basically end up boycotting yourself.
Yeah.
You know, as the end result. Yeah, it really is. It's a very it might feel good. You might think because what you're doing is you think, well, they hit me, I'm going to hit back harder. And so we're going to try to destroy their company. Well, that's what the cancel culture is doing right now.
Yeah.
You know, the cancel culture is doing that. Even the culture itself is reacting negatively against the cancel culture. People that aren't believers are reacting against the cancel culture.
You can't just go and start making bans as a believer on a certain thing. First of all, the world's full of evil. I mean, it's just like there's no corner of the world that you can go to and say this is good. There's nothing, and even Jesus says that. Why you call me good? Like there's no one good but God, right? Like literally, there is nothing good but God.
Yeah, which was of course his statement of being deity, of course, but.
So the fact of the matter is, like, what are you going to swap Disney out for? Something that, yeah, okay, it's not good, but it's less evil. Yeah, of course. But there's still evil in it. So, like, you're just trading one amount of evil or one kind of evil for another.
Or changing it a more palatable evil.
More palatable. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all we're.
Like, you get on your high horse and you're virtue signaling just like the other cancel culture people do. So you're actually falling into their trap, right? You're not actually succeeding in any goal.
Well, I mean, what about this? I mean, Disney is right now, Florida, because of the battle that the Disney Corporation and the employees of Disney are waging against, you know, DeSantis personally and the government.
Honestly, they should repeal that Reedy Creek district.
Right, but that's their self-governance. But so if you want to look at that just short term here, now I take this too far, then it's saying, well, I just feel like the Lord wants me to go. Why am I using a Southern accent with it? Anyway, we're in the South. All right, so apologies to other people in the South. But, you know, I just think the Lord wants me to go into don't want to use that term. A house of ill repute, you know, where, you know, bad things happen. Because I need to be a missionary to those women that are selling themselves for the pleasure of men. No. But Disney's not that. Okay, Disney does
not yet.
Not yet anyway. Yeah, who knows? They do a lot of weird things. I wouldn't recommend you go to visit Disney World during their gay pride events and things like that. That would just be. No, you just should avoid it. Just let them see how much revenue they're going to get just on that, and compare that to when they open it up to the regular people that still live in reality. But I think that there's nothing keeping us, since they're more than happy to tell us how we should live. Why don't we tell them how we do live? That doesn't mean it's like, well, I think all you people are going on a roller skate to hell. No, I don't think that's appropriate either. But you can tell them that you love them and Christ loves them, and you're telling them you love them because Christ loves you. You don't have to go into a big 15-point Romans road and you need to bow your head right now and get saved. Just let them see that Christians aren't evil people in their minds. They're not mean people in their minds. Show them that the love of Jesus Christ through how you live. And if they get in your face and they want to tell you that, well, I want you to call me whatever, you don't have to call them that. I don't believe in calling somebody that's driving a red car and they want me to call it a blue car. It's like, no, it's still a red car. If you want to feel that way, well, if that makes you happy, okay, but that's not a red car. That's not a blue car, rather. It's red. I wouldn't go along and do that. I think we're kind of limited about what we can say because we speak the truth. But we can also say it through every ounce of love that we can possibly give these people. I still don't think it's a mission field, but I think that if we go there, you are a missionary. And
Well, I didn't know where you go because you're
that is exactly correct. And Disney is just the first company to make this big statement. Other companies are making it too. I'm an Amazon Prime guy, okay, and I like Amazon. I mean, it's convenient. Sometimes they're very competitive. Even they beat many people's prices. I try to support my local economy to the best that I can, but given our financial situation now with the inflation and everything, I have to be a good steward of my money. And so sometimes I still buy stuff from Amazon because it's cheaper, you know, and you know, I have to take care of my budget. But if all possible, I try to support the local economy, even sometimes when it costs me a little more. But and especially those people I have a relationship with, which that's another thing. Relationships count. Our relationship with Jesus Christ counts, and it changes how we live. Our relationships with people in this world should also count, and it should also change how we live, not morally, but how we live as far as giving us the opportunity to interact with people. So I guess the big takeaway from this is I don't think pastors should get up and tell people you can't go to Disney. I think that's wrong. I think what we should say is what Disney is pushing right now is completely anti-biblical, anti-Christian. Usually if you use the word anti-Christ, you're thinking, you know, of the last days. But it is anti-Christian, and it goes against biblical tenets, the teaching of the Bible, which is the teaching of Christ. And so it's not my place. But if somebody really feels like that I can no longer support this, then okay. Yeah, if that's what you're going, just follow through with it then. Then do not.
It's not a law, it's a law to yourself. But I mean, you made it, so you better follow through.
Yeah, I mean, if you really feel that way, then do so. But I am getting really close to saying I am really not comfortable with the products that Disney puts out as far as regarding their movies and you know, as far as for children, because children do not possess the analytical capabilities of an adult. If you're willing to sit there beside your child and watch a movie that Disney made, and then to explain to them what's going on, but there's some things that children should not be exposed to. Hence, that's why Governor DeSantis signed the bill in Florida regarding the Parental Rights Act, and because there are some things children very young should not be exposed to. And even when children are going to be exposed to them, I don't care if they're all the way up to 18, they're still children. Parents must be informed first. There is no, the school system does not have the right to just all of a sudden take it upon themselves to make any choices for children whatsoever. Now, when you get ready for your kids to go to college, you're entering a different world. And that's why your kids need to be protected and taught and brought up underneath Scripture before they get ready to go to college, because they better know what they believe.
I mean, I think the best thing as a reaction that we can do as believers in Jesus is to have solid foundations and solid families built off of those biblical foundations, and then go to Disney and show to everyone else who's there how, you know, how peaceful, joyful, how much of a good time, being well behaved in the right time and place.
What?
Yeah. And show other people how it should be, right? And you said, well, you know, I don't feel like I'm winning that way because they're throwing this in my face, pride. They're loud with their hair, they're loud with their jewelry, they're loud with their clothes, they're seeking attention at every turn, and they might think of me as foolish and traditionalist and outdated. How is that me winning? And I'm like, quietly on the inside you're winning. It's just the outside. They're compensating for the turmoil
That's exactly
and
what
so
this
they
is.
need to see peace, and that's what's going to draw them to Christ, is the peace that's beyond all understanding. And if you can bring your family and show that, they actually will yearn for that. They will desire that. And so I think that's one reaction that we should have in this kind of a situation, is just to be the best family unit we can. And the same goes for at work. Is like, I don't think the alternative should be, let's just build an alternative economy like Daily Wire is doing, and just build something that's designed for a traditional family Judeo-Christian worldview. I think the better course of action is, if you find yourself working at Disney, which many people do, there's nothing wrong with that.
No,
right?
there's people that are believers that work there.
Yeah. So what you do as a believer that works at Disney, you work your butt off, and you do the best you can for your Lord, because that's who you work for. And when you get the accolades and you get the awards, or you get any blessings, or even if you don't, they're gonna learn to hate you because you represent the opposite of what they want.
That's correct.
Right? So there's a time coming where our mission is to simply be the example, so that we can be persecuted, so that we can be the ones called to the carpet, so that we can suffer for the name of Christ. And it might just be economically at first. It might just be, hey, we don't get to have the say that we, should be able to have. But eventually it might be, actually, being a martyr, the way that our culture is going. But yes, we've disincentivized hard work to such an extent that they want us as believers to be so disheartened. It's like, why should I work harder? I'm not going to get paid more. Even if I do, they're going to take more of my taxes away from me. Even if I do, I'm going to be, people going to hate me because I represent something different. And there's a lot of reasons to not work hard as a believer in Jesus, especially for a woke company. I'm just giving them more of my effort to help them, proliferate their agenda. There's a whole bunch of reasons you can come up with not to work hard as a believer. But I think our response should be the exact opposite, and allow them to show their true stripes. I've always said this, is that the thing that could have stopped the Nazis killing 6 million Jews would have been a few hundred Nazis at the time saying, no, I'm not going to do it, and watching as 100 of those Nazis get killed for disobeying orders. Eventually, the other 1,000 of them watching this would have woke up and said, what are we doing?
You would think. I think you're dealing with.
That's what we need to do. We're going to be the sacrifice on the altar to wake people up to see this isn't right? Because what we're standing for has no foundation, right?
And I think there's too many times where we're not willing to really engage our faith to its fullest. And that's easy to say now. Okay, it's easy to say when people aren't really coming after us. They're not really got posters of us and hunting us like wild dogs and things like that. That's a pretty simple thing to say. And believers that work at Disney, yes, they should keep working. And when you were talking there, that I heard this. I grew up in the Midwest, farming community everywhere. And there's the old story about the atheist farmer and the Christian farmer. The atheist farmer always made fun of the Christian farmer. And they started the planting season. Both of them planted the same number of acres. Both of them expected the same kind of harvest. But the Christian farmer, his lands, because of the way they were and the topography of the land, he experienced wind damage and water damage due to excessive amounts of rain, and he really didn't have a very good crop. Well, it came down to harvest season, and of course he didn't have the harvest near what the atheist farmer had. And the atheist farmer looked at him and said, "So, what about your God now?" And the way the story is told is that the Christian farmer just looked at him and tipped his hat up and said, "My God doesn't always pay me in September." And because September was the time that whenever they would take the grain, they'd send it to the field the grain processors, and that's when they would get their payoff. But his statement was, he goes, "God doesn't always pay me when everybody else gets paid." And we need to understand that maybe we won't get the raises.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we won't get the promotion. Maybe we won't get the accolades.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we have to remember that God will take what we have and he'll make it meet all of our needs. Do we have everything we want? No.
I mean, honestly,
But-
what
but-
is there to want here on this earth?
That's right.
That
But
you're not going to be able to get 100-fold in heaven.
that is correct. But we still we struggle with the things. We want to have nice things. We want to be comfortable. We want, and there's nothing
Well,
wrong with it.
I want food in my belly.
Yeah, that's right.
Drinking
Yeah.
water.
Yeah. But there's a lot of things we could have, and that we can have more of, and that we can want nicer things. And none of those things are against what God has for us. But we just have to make sure we're doing it in His time period. I have nicer things now than I had when I was 30, but I'm also 60. And so of course I'm going to have, a certain amount of time, but I had to wait for it. And I don't, and so there's things that happen like that. But I think we should understand that I honestly believe that when we get to heaven, and especially there at the last judgment, when believers will be in attendance, according to what Scripture says, believers will be in attendance at the great white throne judgment, when the only thing that's going to be said is, "Depart from me, you accursed, I never knew you," to those that stand before Him at that great white throne. And we're going to find out there's going to be corporate CEOs standing there of multi-billion, even trillion-dollar companies. And God's going to say to them, "You did not do well in your company because you were brilliant. You did well because I had people that worked at your lowest levels in your company, and I made sure your company was successful because of them." And we do not realize how much of a blessing that we have. Even if the other people you work with are lost, even if they're just so extreme, these people are people. They're still made in the image of God. God still created them. God loves them, even though they do not love Him. And God still wants the best for them, even though they don't want the best. But we can still love them, and we should have compassion that they need a job. They should do well.
Mm-hmm.
Because if this is all they have, then
We should pity them, to be honest with
we should, and we should hope that they have a lot, because they're not going to have anything in eternity.
you. Well, they can have less than that.
Yeah, that's right. Well, thank you for being with us, and we'll see you again the next time. I have no idea what the subject matter will be, because who knows what's going to change. Everything we think the last time that we were going to carry through, oh, look, we've got the slap seen around the world. And so that's kind of like what kicked off everything. But thank you for being with us. Hopefully this will grow, and so we'll see what happens. Though, we'll see. You have a great week, or the rest of your month, however this works. Thanks. See you.